Hi everybody and welcome back to the Miss Universe review. Last night was the big pageant and boy did I enjoy it. I bet you guys did too. As you know, I do all my choices and reviews and judging. I mean, it's just very involved over the last couple weeks, especially last week. And I had, at one point, of course, done my two videos that some of you may have seen. But this was my middle selections. So I had the top 5 as Philippines, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Vietnam, and South Africa. That ended up being the top 5. I was so amazed in a good way. Now, when I did my video, I had changed it a bit. So, unfortunately, one of the things I found out is go with your first instincts. Because, for instance, I had taken Curacao off and Brazil off and some of those and Ireland, and they all made it in. Let me get my notes in front of me from last night. But, of course, I have to say off the top that I'm very happy with the winner. I was wanting her to win the entire time. I wanted her to be careful and not get a little too cocky and seem like she had already won, but she's certainly a very deserving winner, and I'm very happy for her and the country of the Philippines. So congratulations to all of you in the Philippines on yet another win. I am so happy for you and for Catriona. So, as far as last night, some of the countries that got in, Ireland, as I said, Curacao, and Brazil, were all on my original list on the video I posted last week, about a week and a half ago. But I had taken them off on the next one. So it just shows you, sometimes you're best to go with your first instincts. Now, out of the top 20, there were 11 ladies that I had picked for my last group of top 20, right before the pageant. So those were Philippines, Puerto Rico, Vietnam, Venezuela, South Africa, Jamaica, let's see, who else? Australia, Canada, Great Britain, and Thailand, and USA. I think that was it. Now, surprises. Mexico not getting into the top 20 really surprised me because she was in my, at one point she was in my top 5. The last video I did, she was. She was always in my top 10. So I'm really surprised she didn't get in, and if anybody has any insight on that or thoughts on that, please let me know because I find that very amazing. Also, I was surprised Miss Ecuador didn't get in. Miss Spain, I was not so surprised. As I told you guys in both my previous videos, or maybe the 3 of them, I liked her, and I think that what she did making history was amazing, but I just didn't think she was that strong of a candidate. So, I'm glad they gave her recognition anyway, and I was really happy to see that. Also, speaking of someone who I wasn't so thrilled with, Miss Columbia. I thought Miss Columbia this year was one of the weakest Miss Columbias I've seen in a long time, to be honest. And I still thought she would make it into the top 20, which she did not. Another, shocking thing, I thought. But I didn't think she would do very well because she just was not coming across well, in my opinion. And it seems the judges agreed, so they were smart this time. I had a few in there that were kind of wild horse, or what they call them, dark horses. So, for instance, Kazakhstan and Armenia were 2 of those. And they didn't make it in. I thought they were very strong candidates, but they did not make it in. So that I thought was unfortunate. I think Mexico, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Ecuador should have been in there, but they weren't. So, some of the ones who were in the top 20, who I was very surprised to see, were Hungary, Poland, let's see, Belgium, not as much, Costa Rica. So I would say those 3, Poland, Hungary, and Costa Rica, I was definitely surprised to see those in there. I don't think some of those people were worthy of the top 20 from what I saw. Now, they could have been amazing in the interview, and there obviously was something that I didn't see that the judges saw, so that's fine. They see everything, we don't, and we have to respect that. Okay, so Indonesia was also in the top 20. She was right on my bubble, so I'm not surprised she was in it, and I think she was a good candidate. Now, when we moved on to the top 10, which I really wish they would have gone from 20 to 15 to 10 to 5 to 3 or whatever, and that probably would have been too much, but I didn't know they were going to go to 3. That I could have done without. I think they should have just gone from 5 to the winner. But they do what they do. But when they went to the top 10, here are my thoughts on that. So 11 of my 20 made it into the top 20. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of my top 11 made it into the 10. So still doing pretty good. So let's talk about who was in the top 10. So from after they did the opening statement or whatever they called it, which by the way, on that I did want to mention a couple things. So what did you guys think of that opening statement situation or part of the competition? I thought it was okay, but, you know, some of the ladies made it almost like a platform, like they do in Miss America, and I'm sure some other pageants as well. And some of them just talked a little bit about themselves, and it was kind of a throwaway moment, I thought. I was glad to hear from each lady, but I was surprised how many didn't use a translator and then struggled. For instance, Vietnam comes to mind. She did okay speaking in English, but it was a bit of a struggle. And I just don't think it's fair to those folks who don't speak good English to... I guess it was their choice, but to me it's not a wise decision. There was one, I can't remember who it was, that did use a translator for that, and I thought it was much more effective. I mean, if English is not a big for your first language or you're not good in it, then why struggle through your answer? Use a translator. But I did like that they did that. I just think that it should have been like a platform for everybody. So in other words, tell a tiny bit about yourself and what's important to you. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to feed the world and, you know, fight for world peace. It doesn't have to be like that, but just something that's important to that person. So anyway, they did that, and then they went to the top 10. And here's the thing. I would have liked to have seen swimsuits, too, before they went to the top 10. But that would have been a lot of people for swimsuits, I understand. So anyway, they did go to the top 10. My choices were Philippines, South Africa, Great Britain, Canada, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Vietnam, Costa Rica, because even though I didn't care for her that much, she did great in that. Australia, and Belgium, who also, I thought, really hit it out of the ballpark in that opening statement. But they didn't choose her. I was really surprised. I think she had a very unique hairstyle, very curly. I liked it. But who they chose was South Africa, Vietnam, Venezuela, Philippines, Costa Rica, Curacao, Nepal, I think that's how you say it, Nepal, and Canada, Thailand, Puerto Rico. So I thought that was a really good group. I did so like Miss Curacao. Nepal was the one that was a bit of a surprise to me to get through that. But again, 7 of my 11 got through. So that was wonderful. And then they did swimsuits. Miss Vietnam, I thought, was great in that. Of course, Miss Philippines, Miss Canada, and Miss Puerto Rico were the highlights of that for me. I thought Nepal, whatever it is, I think it's Nepal, struggled in that a bit. And Costa Rica, definitely. Did not like those two. To me, they were the weakest in the swimsuit, especially Costa Rica. So, for the top 5, I picked Canada, Philippines, Vietnam, Puerto Rico, and then cross between South Africa and Curacao. I thought Curacao did a little bit better, so put her in the top 5 over South Africa. They picked Puerto Rico, Vietnam, Philippines, South Africa, and Venezuela. So I didn't do as well in that one. But if you think about it, those 5, like I said, were all in my top 5 a week ago. And so all of them I really liked. I mean, I wanted Puerto Rico and Philippines to be the last 2 standing. That didn't quite happen, but I was happy with the result. So they did the questions. The questions I thought were answered very well by all the ladies. I thought the one that really stood out, however, was Miss Vietnam. I honestly thought she did the best in that question. Now, it was through a translator, obviously. And by the way, 3 of the ladies used translators in that, so I'm glad to see it. Again, give yourself that as much benefit as you can if English is not your first language. I think it's best to use a translator, and you know, you're going to understand some of it, but to get the full meaning. Okay, so that moved us to the top 3. Who did I think was going to be in the top 3? Like I said, I thought Vietnam did the best, so I put her in there with Miss Philippines and Miss Puerto Rico. That's not what the judges thought. They liked Philippines, South Africa, and Venezuela the best. And I think they're looking at the whole competition, not just the question right then, so that's fine. And I was too, but I did think those 3 should have been in the top 3. So they did the final question, which was the same, of course, for each one. And then they placed the ladies in an order. So as we know, Venezuela was the second runner-up, and it was between South Africa and Philippines. And I thought it would have been a crime at that point for Philippines not to win because she did so well. She's just such a strong contestant in this pageant and other pageants as well. So, congratulations again to Catriona Gray, the new Miss Universe. She won. It was very exciting. It was exhilarating, I thought. And I think I could hear the screams from the Philippines all the way here to Indiana in the United States. So, I'm so happy for her and that country because I know how much they love pageants. And she was just so worthy. I mean, her confidence, her poise, and, you know, of course, her beauty. I do think she's very beautiful. But it's inner and outer beauty, and in her case, she seems to have both. But you know, I'm looking forward to seeing her as Miss Universe and seeing some interviews she's done. I was watching one last night on the Miss Universe channel on Facebook, but I couldn't get any sound, so I don't know what was being said. But she was interviewed. So again, congratulations to all the ladies. I thought it was an excellent, excellent group. And also congratulations to Thailand because it was such a well done pageant. I loved the way the stage was arranged in that X format. And it just really did, you know, even Steve Harvey did well. I say something good. He's not my favorite, and I wish they'd get rid of him, honestly. I don't think he's the best host, but he is an amusing person, and, you know, he's okay. So, what did you all think of the pageant? And I'm sure there's a lot of happy people. I'm sure there's a few that are unhappy. But I just want to say that in closing, you know, a lot of people didn't believe me about Miss Columbia not being strong this year, so the judges agreed she just wasn't. And for those articles that were saying that Miss Spain was going to win it all, I don't know where you were getting that from, because it just, although she's lovely, she was not a strong candidate compared to some of these others. And my last thing, for our hometown Miss USA, she just, to me, was not nearly as strong as some of these other ladies. She did make it into the top 20, as I said, but she didn't get very far after that. I just don't think she stood up to them, you know, and when you saw them on stage together, not only was she shorter, which isn't the end of the world, but she was just, to me, not in that league. And that's just how I feel. So I didn't really think she would be in that top 5. But I did think she was improving at the end, and so she had a chance. But she didn't even get into the top 10, so that tells you something. Instead, someone got in like Costa Rica, who I didn't really think was strong either. So anyway, again, thank you for watching. We have another year, I guess, to wait for the next Miss Universe. But I'm sure there will be other pageants to check out in between now and then. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.